All right, now we're joined by Eric Smiley, who's running for City Council Position 9. So go ahead with a 2-minute introduction.
Hi, my name's Eric Smiley. I'm running for position 9 on the Seattle City Council. It's a position I want for a number of reasons. I'm interested in housing and how we can have more affordable housing without taking too much away from the neighborhood. This isn't the only place this has ever happened, but there's some approaches which might be a little unique available now, such as apartments. I'm staying at the Bread of Life Mission downtown, and there are rooms, there's probably 100 guys there. They're sleeping in bunk beds, we're sleeping in bunk beds, 2 bunk beds in a room. But, it could be, I'm not sleeping outside, I'm not sleeping on a sidewalk or a park bench, I know which bed I'm gonna get at the end of the day, and there's some camaraderie there. There's probably more than 30% of the guys there have regular jobs and they're working regularly. So there's some different approaches that can be taken. I'm also looking at education. I read to preschoolers and I do some tutoring to elementary school children. And I know that this is the big, when you start, you spend $100 here, it's worth $1,000, $10,000 later down the road. Especially when you're building language skills, it's very, very important. Also for college, I'd like to have a college program where healthcare and education associate's degree were free, because we're short on healthcare workers, we're short on medical assistants, and both these skills, if you look down the road, if you know about healthcare, you're taking care of your parents when you're older, you're taking care of yourself. Having this understanding is very valuable, and there's, I think it would be I think it would work effectively. Okay, so now we're
All right.
time.
Yes, thank you. So now we have our 4 prepared questions that we're asking all candidates for City Council. If you flip over the piece of paper, if you'd like to read along with us, go ahead. And David, will you start with number 1? These are 2-minute answers.
That seems apropos. What is your strategy for implementing, leveraging, and perhaps improving the incentive zoning program to create diverse neighborhoods and assure affordable housing?
Well, for the zoning program, I don't care for the take 5% and build something somewhere else. I think that if you're gonna do it, you have to do it in the area it's in, as opposed to just moving it somewhere else. Let's say we have 100 new people come into town, they're all making $70,000 a year, so you give 5%. So these 95 of these people are gonna use a lot more than just 5 people who aren't making the rent. So there's something inequitable there. I would try to put more dense units in. I don't know if a lot of areas have used industrial areas and turned those areas into housing areas and turned them into really nice neighborhoods, and if we can explore that, that would be one option. Yeah, it's tough. I guess some form of rent control and some form of limiting the growth. I don't know, foreign buyer levies. It's a tough question, and it's got to be addressed on individual locations. It's not something that can be broad stroke. So I would have to study that very carefully, and try one approach in one neighborhood, and maybe another in another, and see if one was effective. Look at I think Victoria is a good example to look at, because they have some of the same challenges we have, and see how they're approaching these issues and other issues that our city faces.
John, number 2.
In your view, what is the city's role in ensuring equal educational and achievement opportunity in Seattle Public Schools?
Preschool. That's the big one. And I mean preschool, equal preschool everywhere else. I'm not, these when children whose parents put them in a prep school, I don't agree that is a deductible. I mean, I think they should pay the full price, because, and then they just take money out of the school system, and then you have the children, the poorer children get isolated. And they're isolated culturally, and they're isolated regionally, and it's not a good system, because that's the time when you want children being together, as opposed to, you start segregating them, and it is segregation. I mean, you can put it another word. I mean, it's financial segregation, but it's also racial, because, it's the, many of the low-income people are black, and many of them are Latino, and so, you have that come forth, and I think language is a big part of it. I think, when you isolate the races like that, there's a whole language that black people have that I don't have, I can't use properly, and it's, it may be offensive to say it, but that's the truth. And if you look, for us to speak the same language, it would make a big difference in how we got along socially. It's hard. I think I read about the Civil War, that it was hard to shoot people who spoke the same language. You hear somebody that you were fighting on the other side screaming on the battlefield for your pal, and it was very hard to do. And it's language is one of the keys, and language starts when you're young. So.
Elizabeth, number 3.
What are your specific recommendations for completion and follow-up steps of the Seattle Police Department consent decree and ongoing steps to improve department relations with Seattle's residents?
I'm ready for this. I would take the police department, I would strip police off it, and I would name them the Public Safety Department. It would be the first, maybe in the country, maybe in the world, because that's their job. And if you go and you have somebody knock on your door and say, public safety, as opposed to police, people would be a little bit more accommodating to that. And also the officers would have a more direct understanding of what they're doing. I mean, that is their job. It really is not policing, it's public safety. And to put it on the table and label it like that, I haven't had a chance to talk to some police officers how they would, if that would be, how receptive they would be to that. But I think that would have an impact. How much of an impact, I don't know, but it would have an impact, for sure. So that's one thing I would do. Let me see if I have any more on that. I guess we have to keep an eye on, where the trouble is, where the police need to know that when they have an officer who is taking advantage of his authority, that he's not only exposing, he's exposing everybody, your fellow police officers. All of a sudden, you're walking down the road and somebody says, yeah, you're one of the guys that shoots people in the back, I'm gonna take on you. So the mistrust just develops from there, and that's a problem. And also, when you have a guy who's taking advantage of them, like I said, the people out on the street, they're like, well, he's a cop, it's the po-po, so the whole thing deteriorates. The idea that the blue wall is somehow protective, it doesn't serve the police well to have, and I guess they understand this.
Number 4, Brittany.
What is your strategy for dealing with homelessness in Seattle?
I guess, you have to know there's mental health, there's drug addiction, there's people that just like being outside. I know a few of those people. And there's healthcare, there's healthcare issues. So I would say there has to be regularly scheduled outreach to those people. If there was, it'd be sort of like camp. If you could put buildings together, where you could have, you know, a dozen, 20, 30 people staying there, but staying there without, I guess, the mess. You know, you have to have storage, you can't go out and get a job with a shopping cart. And so you have to explore some dense housing options. And, I guess density is an issue, but what is it legally? I mean, that's what people are doing at the Braille Life Mission. There's, I got 4 people in a room with me, we're in 2 bunk beds, and we're there. We're there, we're living there. It's a residence, really. I mean, you could call it a mission, but, I don't know if it would be legal to do that if you just took a building and put people in it. But that's what we have there. I'm a writer. I can't afford to, I'm not that good of a writer, but I can't afford a $1,500 squat here in Seattle. And I want to be downtown. I want to be in the city. I don't want to be in, way down south or way up north or something like that. So it's a price you have to pay. But I think that's a possibility to have at least some, some areas where you could have much more.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll move on to our follow-up questions. These are 1-minute answers, and I have one to start with. So you are running against someone who's an incumbent, and you've talked about your ideas and your own merits, but I'm wondering if you could specifically contrast your candidacy with the incumbent, and if there's anything in particular you felt she's done wrong or hasn't done well enough. So I want to give you that opportunity.
Well, first of all, she's done a lot well. She's a very good city councilor, and a couple of things she did recently with the immigration funding for the defense and with the leave. I think that's good work, but I don't think she's putting enough imagination into what really is, a groundwork job. I mean, the way city government works is the way state government works, is the way national government works, because those things all grew out of city government. So, in the ways that, there were cities before there were states, before there were nations, and so those things grew up. And so I don't think there's enough imagination there. And I'm not really running against her positions so much. I'm running again. I don't think she's taking steps where they could be taken.
Great, thank you. Additional follow-up questions? Clayton and then Ben.
There is a program in Seattle which allows people to build accessory dwelling units in their backyards.
Mother-in-law and cottages.
Yeah, and the current limitation is 600 square feet. There is a proposal to increase that allowable area, total allowable gross floor area, to 1,000 square feet. Would you be in favor of that? And secondly, would you be in favor of allowing affordable dwelling units to be used by homeless people, as has been recommended by Rex Holbein?
Well, the square footage first, I don't see why not. I mean, I don't think the other 400 feet. One of the big issues with the mother-in-law units and additional is parking, because parking is very valuable. And you put another person there, you have another person parking on the street. So, 600 to 1,000, it might crowd some yards, it might crowd some houses, but I wouldn't be that reluctant to go along with that, depending on the intricacies. And you spoke of another program that I'm not familiar with. People using buildings that aren't resided in?
There's an architect in town named, Rex Holbein.
So we're actually down to 4 seconds in the answer anyway, so I think, why don't we wrap that
Okay.
question up? So Ben and then Brittany.
Let me just open my question up real fast. So, talking about police reform, you recommended changing what we call the police. We changed their name. So, when I was an educator, we stopped using red pens and started using blue pens because red pens had a traumatizing effect on children. And it took less than 1 semester before blue pens had a traumatizing effect on children. How will changing the name of the police department change the way the police the community?
Well, words are a lot different than pen colors. If I tell you I've got a cheap suit, or if I tell you I have an inexpensive suit, you will know the difference. And you'll know it today, you'll know it tomorrow, and you'll know it in a week. And I also think that using the words public safety, if I am a policeman and I say, I'm public safety, I think if I was doing it, I would immediately have a sense of my responsibility. There'd be no question of my mission. My mission is public safety. My mission is not, policing is a fine enough word, but what I'm there to do, that's what I'm there to do. That the old time word was police force, which is, you look at it and it has some connotations and I don't know if it would be a dramatic difference, but I have a sense it would make a difference. And, the cost is cheap.
Right, Brittany.
What is your stance on the new youth jail?
I don't, no. But the trouble is that you have troubled youth, and something has to happen. But to segregate them out and keep them all like that it's more, I guess, addressing when you have troubled youth. They're gonna be in some place. They're not gonna be held, or they're gonna be held. And if they're held, so maybe I would be more considerate if they had, if there were some special plans on how to address the problem, because it's not, a jail. It's a building. It's whatever it is. You're addressing the trouble, which is troubled youth, and so what are the best approaches, and then I suppose put a building up to address those.
Clinton has his hand up again, and then Bevan.
To follow up on Ben's question, have you watched The Wire?
I have seen some. Yes, yeah, I've seen not all. Maybe I saw a season at once when I could, but yes, so some of it. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Bevan has the next question.
So to go off of Brittany's question, actually, I think that there's consistent data to show that education is directly tied to troubled youth. So to bring that back around to what is the city's role in education to make sure that that gap is being closed, or to at least work on that gap being closed? I'll leave it there.
I think as much resources as we can put at it. Like I said, preschool, and then go on from there. I think it's more a matter of degree, but once you're 16 and you're troubled, it's going to be much more difficult, no matter how much money you put on the table, to address that. So the younger the better, but I believe that every area, every zip code should have equally competent teachers, equally luxurious schools, that those should be the measures, that they should be based on a per student ratio, and that they all get as much equally as possible.
All right, so we are at 20 minutes. If you want to take 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Okay, Okay, so I'm running for Seattle City Council, and I think I could make a difference there. I think it's a beautiful city. I think we have a lot of resources, a lot of great resources, and I would enjoy trying to put those resources to work for the benefit of the people of Seattle. It's a little bit complex because we essentially do have two cities. We have the center city, and then it gets more suburban in the perimeter, and they're getting a little overwhelmed, maybe. So I would try to have a way to do that. But like I said, I'm looking forward to doing it, and I think it'd be fun.
Great, thank you very much.